The following presentation is controversial and may be offensive to some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Radio from the heart of America now.
And now, the Commander-in-Chief is back. Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups, the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio.
Come on in, folks. Welcome. Welcome back. Hey, we're broadcasting live today, this Friday on the Gulf Coast. As a matter of fact, this will be the last broadcast of Freedom Friday in 2017. And some people were going, oh no, that can't be. Other people were going, yes, finally. Yeah, but I fooled everybody. Yeah, no, but it is the last broadcast of 2017. And right by next Friday, live will be the first broadcast of 2018. But it's so good to have you with us. Let me remind you now, I'm going to bring on Mike Zullo very, very soon because we want to jump right into this and redeem the time while we have him. But let me remind you, tomorrow, go to carlgallups.com. Click on anything that says Freedom Friday, and right there you can download the podcast of this entire show with all of our great guests and commentary. Okay, carlgallups.com. Anything that says Freedom Friday. Matter of fact, my picture's right there on the page. It says Freedom Friday Radio. It's got a link. Connect right there. Okay? All right, good deal. Well, Mike Zullo, it's good to have you with us today. Thank you for coming back, especially at this last moment. I know you had so much more to share, and I asked you if you would come back and share this that you're going to share today, but it's good to have you with us.
Thanks, Carl. Just get ready to go back to the future, man. Just buckle up.
I know. Well, listen, I hope and pray that you had a good Christmas, and we're right around the corner to a brand new year. And Mike, I'm going to say it again. I'm going to go ahead and predict. I think this is going to be a magnificent year of revelations. And Donald Trump's already out there talking about what happened to Imran Awan and what happened to this and he's leading the way. He's setting the stage. I think he's got some stuff up his sleeves. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. He also made some other statement where I believe he says that he has control over the DOJ as to what they do. So I think he's gearing up for something.
I do too. And it was just some weeks back, 4 or 5 weeks, I guess now. I so have a hard time keeping track of time these days. Everything's happening so quickly, and so much is happening. But there were 4 or 5 weeks back when he was quoted in mainstream, it's fake news, but mainstream media as bringing up the birth certificate again. And knowing what you and I know now and others know, and seeing what's happening with the exposure of more and more things, with Trump making these statements about DOJ and whatever happened to this and whatever happened to that, and we need to investigate Obama and the Iran deal and the shipping of cocaine. And he sounds like he's gearing up for an all-out exposure. And I think 2018 is going to be huge.
Well, brother, I'm going to get the popcorn and sit back and watch it.
I know. Well, you may be in Washington before Congress before it's over with.
We'll see. We'll see, Prophet.
Yeah. But especially, as you keep revealing these things that you have been on this program and others. But listen, let's jump right into this. So let me set the stage, and then I'll dump it in your lap and let you go with it. So back in 2011, when Obama's so-called long-form birth certificate magically appears on the government White House website, and I say magically because for several years before that, his spokespeople said there wasn't even such a thing as a long form anymore. You can't get a long form. They had the short form up there, and it was being questioned, harshly and then all of a sudden this appears at this opportune time. And but in the meantime, NBC White House correspondent Savannah Guthrie, a lot of our listeners will remember this. Back in 2011, she was a journalist, an NBC White House correspondent with NBC. I just said that, but she was the journalist. She proclaimed to have seen and touched, Mike, a paper copy, which is what Sheriff Arpaio said, let us have it. You said, let us have it. We'll do some forensics and, hey, we'll clear the president. But she claimed to have seen, to have touched, to have handled Barack Obama's long-form Hawaiian birth certificate, and specifically she claimed to have touched and felt the raised seal on the paper copy of the paper birth certificate. And she said then she took a photo of it, she said, of that document, and with her cell phone. Now, Now, there are a lot of problems with that story, and I want you to dive off into that.
Well, first off, Carl, there are a lot of problems with it. Number one, she is, till today, the only journalist ever proclaiming to have seen or touched the authentic Barack Obama long-form birth certificate, as you described, feeling and touching that raised seal, and then she takes a picture of it. She took that picture, and along with it, she posted it on, she took two pictures, actually, and then along with them, she posted them on a social media page, along with the comment, I saw the certified copy of long-form POTUS birth certificate today, felt the raised seal, snapped this pic. Mm-hmm. Well, the issue comes in when comparing Guthrie's two photos along renderings, including her own photos. Mm-hmm. So she's got two photos here, so just keep this in mind. Guthrie's first photo is a close-up of the document. And I think you posted these on your website, if I'm correct.
Yes, no, that's correct. Let me tell people where they can look at them if they're near a computer right now and want to watch them with us, or if they're listening to the podcast tomorrow. Just go to facebook.com/freedomfriday.carlgallups, okay? Or you can go to facebook.com, my Facebook page, Carl Gallups 2, I think it is, and then or facebook.com/PP Simmons, the PNN News and Ministry Network. Anyway, on all of those, but at facebook.com, freedomfriday.carlgallups, right now, all three of the documents that Mike's going to be talking about are posted there so that you can look at them yourself. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, so she posts the first document, and it's a close-up, and it happens to be centered around an area on the long-form birth certificate around box number 11. Mm-hmm. On the certificate, when you see it, you'll notice there's boxes for, input of information. Mm-hmm. And this is centered around the name of Obama's father and the father's place of birth, which says Kenya, East Africa. Mm-hmm. And that's, again, in box number 11. Mm-hmm. Now, attention gets drawn to the fact that the word East has some misalignment in the letters. The capital E, as it's horizontally positioned to the letter A, it's slightly higher, mm-hmm. and that's really not an issue. You have the letter A in Africa, the letter ANF are actually higher than the rest of the RICA in the word Africa, mm-hmm. as they would relate to each other. But that's not really a big concern because in typewritten documents, that stuff would happen all the time. Mm-hmm. The issue comes in when she posts her second photo. The second photo, as she depicts it, is a wider shot, and she posts it under the same hashtag and same social media site. I would assume this was very close to each other in time. I'm not sure. But here's where the problem comes in. The word East and the word Africa on the same lines in the same box is the close-up of box number 11 that I just described. Mm-hmm. Those letters and their horizontal positioning are widely disjointed now, mm-hmm. and they do not conform or replicate the very close-up photo she just previously posted. Mm-hmm. Now, she makes no distinction that she took this from two different documents, and even if they were two different documents, that doesn't even matter. That would become a bigger problem. But she describes them, and what you see is you see in box number 11 now the words Kenya, East Africa. The East, E-A-S-T, is wildly disjointed from its horizontal plane. You have the letter E raised high up. The letter A is now suspiciously lower than the letter S, which is still lower than the letter T. And then you go to the word Africa, and you have the letter A higher, a little higher than the letter F, and then the letter F is higher again than the rest of the IRCA, with the letter A in the last letter of Africa is slightly higher. It just does not look anything like what she had previously posted. Mm-hmm. So then the problem gets even worse.
Yes.
Because the Associated Press, the same day, released two photos of purportedly the same document, one with a green background and one that has some kind of clear bluish tint. Mm-hmm. Now, the one with the bluish tint, it has a completely different letter alignment than the Guthrie photo.
Yes, it does.
And if you see it, what you're going to see is, yes, that East Africa, the E in the word East is a little higher than the A, but the AST are almost perfectly now horizontally aligned. Mm-hmm. And when you go to the Africa, the A is a little higher, but the F, RICA, now these are horizontally aligned. Mm-hmm. Different than the Guthrie purported actual photo. Mm-hmm. Now you go down a little further and you start to look at this, and you've got the AP. Now they render up, or they offer up a rendering of another photo that has the green safety paper background completely visible. Mm-hmm. Now, the biggest problem with this is the green safety paper background is pristine. The document is, quote, pristine. It looks like the Obama PDF. But here's the problem. That word East and the word Africa, they are now in perfect horizontal alignment to each other.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
And when you zoom in on this, you don't even have to zoom in that far. The letter A in the word East, E-A-S-T, mm-hmm. actually resembles the letter N. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know what that is. I cannot explain that. But these were the AP images. Now, we know that the AP images were White House handouts. Now, whether they were copies of the White House handouts, which were duplications, mm-hmm. or they were JPEG images placed in Photoshop, because we know that they were placed in Photoshop, something went on with these two images.
Yeah.
But going back to the original Guthrie, and I know this is kind of confusing unless you're looking at this, the close-up that she takes and the wide angle, those are two different documents.
They sure seem to. Well, they are, yes.
And now the question becomes, we know that the White House claimed that they had 2 certified copies. There is no way that they had 2 different documents certified. Either you had one birth certificate or you didn't. So what does she have a picture of? Is that possibly a forerunner, a work in progress that they showed her? Another interesting note is the fact that in the presser that happened before Obama came out and announced that this was his birth certificate, journalists were actually kind of challenging White House representatives, asking if they were going to see the real document, and they were told that they got this copy. So no one has ever seen it. No one has ever touched it. What did she touch? Then she claims that she touches this raised seal. Well, the problem is, in any one of these renderings, including the White House PDF, there is no identifiable or distinguishable raised seal visible. Now, in other words, you could have a blob of something on this paper, but you don't know if that's an Hawaii State raised seal or not. And I can tell you from the documents we handled and everything that we did experiments on, you can plainly see a raised seal. It's embossed in the paper, mm-hmm. if not perforated. And we know that the process down at the Department of Health in Hawaii, it was done with an electronic machine. Mm-hmm. So there's no somebody didn't press the handle hard enough nonsense. That's out the window.
Yeah.
So you can't see the raised seal that she purportedly held and touched, and you can't identify it in her document. And then going one step further, this is where I think it gets really interesting. The Guthrie photo would have you believe that this is the actual hard copy document released by Hawaii. No alterations, no computerization, no nothing. However, her document does not display 2 pencil markings on the right side of the PDF file. When you take the PDF file and you remove what is called the clipping mask, in other words, it's a little border that the computer puts around it, right. There are 2 identifiable pencil markings on the right side of the unmasked border.
All right, stop right there, Mike. We've run over time. We're going to take this break. When we come back, let's talk about those 2 pencil markings and their relevance. Plus, I want to talk about those A differences between Kenya and East. There's a difference in the letter A there. At least I see it. We'll talk about that as well when we come back. All right, Mike?
Sounds good, Carl.
All right, good deal. Folks, Oval Office, Gulf Coast Talk Radio, Freedom Friday, Carl Gallups, Mike Zullo, my guest. We're having a good time explaining to you the mess called the Obama birth certificate. This thing is far from over, folks. We'll be right back. And Mike Zullo, welcome back. So pick it up where you left off. Back up a little bit and reintroduce. So what the problem is with the pencil markings.
Well, Carl, the Obama PDF file it has some processes that were done to it, and one of those is called a clipping mask. It's like a border, that you would put around a picture to border it off. It's put on by the computer manually a lot of times, sometimes automatically. When you remove that clipping mask, what's evident under the Obama PDF file is on the green safety paper. To the far right, there are two pencil markings. They almost look like half open circles or three-quarter open circles. And they're just there. They're on the document. Where this becomes problematic is they don't appear on any of the AP photos, and they don't appear on Savannah Guthrie's wide shot photo that has the letter discrepancies that we just addressed. So that poses a question. Is there another document that we don't know about? And on that other document, was it typed at a different time where letters were incorrectly spaced? Was this a working prototype that somehow they showed her because they didn't have anything else to show her? I mean, there's a lot of questions surrounding this, but that document that she took, that cell phone camera of, that wide angle, that is not the PDF file document. Yeah. And our own digital experts tell us they would much rather work with a digital photo than with any kind of other electronic file. So to say that this is some kind of photographic anomaly, that's a bunch of bunk because it doesn't happen anywhere else in the document.
Yeah. No, I was just noticing. I was comparing other boxes of information, and you're right. I mean, they're all the same in all the other places, but on that one box, there's some real jiggy-jaggy going on somehow. For some reason, it's really strange. It's very, very strange, and yet they represent it to be a picture basically of the same document, and it can't be.
No, and Carl, this goes back to the circumstantial facts or circumstantial evidence that we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks. When you have discrepancies like this, when you have problems like this, when you have only one individual claims to have handled the document. Now, by all accounts, White House counsel, the President of the United States never handled this, according to him. But this one reporter goes in there, and she's going to be the one that attests to its validity. Well, I have an issue with that, and we all know what kind of propaganda, that comes right out of, Goebbels. Let's get one reliable source and put it out there, and everybody will believe it. Well, you can't believe this because this thing is wrought with problems.
Yeah, and of course now in the Trump era, how much more do we know about fake news, particularly NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, Media Matters, all these groups. And here's an NBC White House correspondent, Savannah Guthrie, who goes out front to say, I'll be the fall guy or the fall gal. I'll say I handled it. I'll say I touched the raised seal. I'll take a picture. We'll put it out there. We'll be done with this. But the problem is, of course, you and Sheriff Arpaio jumped on it forensically for years, and now tell the folks you're hard pressed to find anything with Savannah Guthrie's name attached to it with this birth certificate. I mean, it's like it's been scrubbed.
You can't find those photos of her social page any longer. You can hear, I believe, some audio clips. She did this back in 2011, sitting down on an interview with Brian Williams. Now, we all know the pillar of truth that he is. Yeah. But she did this then, and it's on there. And if I think, and I may be wrong on this, but I think she tries to allege that the PDF file released by the White House is backed up by two hard copy certificates received, by the White House. That, if that's the way those words were, and don't hold me to this, but if I recall that correctly, that's an odd choice. You don't have to back up a PDF file. You would say, look, this is the actual PDF file, a copy of the actual certificate. You're not backing anything up. So it's very strange. The whole thing is very strange. But you know what? The whole manifestation of this birth certificate is very strange.
Yeah, and to make it extremely simple for folks, no one officially has ever handled and displayed the original paper copy with the raised seal. No law enforcement agency or forensic examination, document examination company has ever handled or run forensics on a paper copy from the Department of Health out of Hawaii. It would be so simple. I mean, if you were legitimate and you had a legitimate birth certificate and all this hoopla was going on for 8 years, it would take you 15 minutes to solve it. Instead, here we are 8 years later.
And you know what, Carl? Here's the sad part about this, and we're coming up to a hard break. Here's the sad part about this, is that they want to blame a lot of the public out there for being conspiratorial, but it's the White House and the administration that keeps feeding the dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the problem that's here. You don't have people just making this up. There are problems here.
Yeah, big problems.
And the White House is the big contributor to it,
Yeah.
or that administration
Yes.
was, not this current White House.
And as you so brilliantly have explained, a lot of these, quote, problems are circumstantial. But the problem is there's a mountain now of the circumstantial evidence, the circumstantial problems, which tends to point to something really bad has happened here.
And you have a phony birth certificate, which is a federal offense.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, that's a creation. There's no doubt about that. That's a creation.
Yeah. And using a phony ID is a crime, and passing it off to gain office is a crime, and saying it's your identification is a crime. I mean, there are 4 or 5 crimes associated with this.
Yeah, no, there are. There are. And this thing, look, this gets deeper and deeper. There's more to come.
Yeah, there is.
But just understand that,
Yeah.
I just want to bring people back in time so they start to understand circumstantially, how do you look at...
Mike, thank you for being with us. We're out of here. Hard break. We'll have you back soon.
The Satanists wanted to install their own tribute, a pagan idol, on the Capitol grounds, right next to the Ten Commandments.
Billions around the planet are witnessing a world in the grasp of sadistic spiritual darkness. This unholy alliance has infected our governments, our religious institutions, and our societies. The world appears to be unraveling. But can the evil behind these dark supernatural forces be defeated? Is everything playing out just as the Bible predicted it will in the final days? At last, you can know the answers to mankind's most urgent questions and learn your destiny among today's events in the new, unprecedented work taking the prophecy world by storm. Gods and Thrones, Nakash, Forgotten Prophecy and the Return of the Elohim by best-selling author, former decorated law enforcement officer, and senior pastor Carl Gallups. This changes everything. Available now wherever fine books are sold.